Episode 47, Patriots vs. the Texans recap, and a preview of the Patriots at the Jaguars. Stay tuned.
Welcome to The Sports Perspective, an American football fancast about the New England Patriots and also news from around the league. Here is your host, Roy.
Welcome, everybody, for another wonderful Tuesday of The Sports Perspective, episode 47. I am your host, Roy, and boy, what a crazy weekend of football. If you watch college, a lot of crazy stuff happened, and on Sunday, more craziness ensued. So let's jump into some news. Bad news if you're a Patriots fan. Jeremy Hill, if you haven't heard, is done for the year. He's on injured reserve with a torn right ACL. If you saw the play, you knew something bad happened. I saw the play and I'm thinking, oh, Jesus, he's done. Hoping he wasn't, obviously, but it was a bad injury, and it sucks because he was playing really well. He was averaging, I think, over 6 yards a carry. 6 yards a carry. He looked good. He looked very good, and unfortunately, he is done for the year. And continuing with the Patriots, they made some waiver moves. Surprise, surprise, they have waived punt returner, wide receiver, Riley McCarron. Anyone really surprised by this? You know, he played pretty decently the whole game. You know, I don't think he had a catch, but he was getting the punts, catching the ball, doing his thing. And then he muffed one. You knew after that wasn't going to go well for him. You knew it. You knew for sure. And they waived newly acquired wide receiver Chad Hansen. But I'm telling you, McCarron, what was he thinking? Man. But, I don't know. Maybe they'll re-sign him and put him back on the practice squad. I don't know. They need a guy to return punts until Edelman can get back. They need somebody back there. Don't want Edelman back there returning punts. Jesus. They got to find a replacement, but it looks like it might be him when he gets back. And that's very unfortunate. But there's some other rumors that they actually brought in Corey Coleman. He was cut by, I believe, the Saints, and he was brought in for a workout. So, I don't know. He's being worked out, and they need help bad. Very, very bad. So hopefully they can figure this out and just bring a bunch of receivers in. Just bring a ton of them in, try them out. Maybe something sticks. Who knows? Now, in the sucked department, our good friend Jimmy Garoppolo, the savior of the 49ers, blew chunks over the weekend. I'm sure he'll rebound. But then you have the Cleveland Browns. Did anybody catch the end of that game? Did anyone think they were going to pull it out? Come on. Come on. I thought they were going to pull it out, believe it or not. I said, oh my God, Cleveland's going to beat Pittsburgh. But then they ended up being the Cleveland Browns. And they sucked it up. I thought they were going to get the W, but nope. They forgot who they were for a while, I think. Then they realized, hey, we're Cleveland. We suck. And back on the injury front for a minute, the Patriots weren't the only team to have some injuries. Titans. Probably a bigger loss than our loss, surprisingly. They lost tight end Delaney Walker for the year. The Texans lost their right tackle Henderson for the year. And the Bucks, they lost wide receiver Jackson with a concussion. And then how about Aaron Rodgers? He got hurt. He had a lower leg injury. But somehow was able to pull it out. And speaking of injuries, this helmet rule that was called a dozen times during the preseason, which could have been called several times during the Patriots game alone, was only called once in 14 games Sunday. One time. So you're telling me that only one time in 14 games, 14 60-minute games, only one player used the crown of his helmet. I don't buy that. No way, no how, not happening. No way. So they decided not to call it this year? What's going on with that? But let's go into some happy news. The Patriots won their home opener, 27-20. It was a pretty sloppy game, but it's the first game of the year, so that's to be expected a little bit, you know? Both teams had sloppy moments. I do like the Texans. Those Texans are really good. The Texans. I do like them. There were a few turnovers on both sides. Fumbles, interceptions. As far as the Patriots go, I do expect them to tighten up a bit and play better. I do expect that. And they better because they're playing Jacksonville next week. And it's in Jacksonville. So they better play better. Better play better. Say that fast 5 times. Now, let's go over some quick stats. Tom Brady, he was actually 26 for 39 for 277 yards with 3 touchdowns. Not bad for a 41-year-old. And he threw 1 interception that was tipped. He played better than I thought he would, given that, you know, they're shorthanded. And they only have like 3 receivers. But he played pretty well. And he played well partly because of the running backs. You had Rex Burkhead, 18 carries for 64 yards, over 3 yards a carry. James White had 5 carries for 18 yards, over 3 yards a carry. And he had 1 receiving touchdown all the way, by the way. And Jeremy Hill had 4 carries for 25 yards with a 6.3 average. And like I said earlier, Hill was looking very, very good. Extremely well. And the running backs actually combined for 122 yards with a 3.9 average. That was good. Very good. But unfortunately, they lost one of their guys, Hill, to a torn ACL. So we'll see how this works out now. That puts more of a ownership on Sony Michel now, huh? Unless they get a running back in here. Oh, they bring one of the kids up from the practice squad. Now, onto the wide receivers. We'll do the tight ends. Well, one tight end. We'll do the tight ends with the wide receivers. Big Gronk had 7 receptions for 123 yards and a touchdown. And actually, 4 of his catches went for 20 yards or more. That's pretty amazing. It still amazes me that they don't cover him better. I know he's tough to cover, I get that, but couldn't somebody come up with a scheme to take him out of the game? Anybody? There must be a way to stop him. Must be. And how about Philip Dorsett? He had 7 receptions for 66 yards and a touchdown. And with Dorsett's touchdown, can you believe it? He became the 69th player to catch a touchdown from Tom Brady. 69 different people have caught touchdowns from Brady. That's pretty awesome. And what's more awesome is Dorsett seems to be becoming a reliable asset for Brady, which could come in very handy at the end of the season. Don't be surprised if Dorsett is not a key player during the run at the end of the year. Remember, he could be a key contributor. Now, James White, like I said earlier, he had 4 receptions himself for 38 yards, and he had his touchdown receiving. James White is just, man, he's awesome. He's a really good player. Thank God we have James White. And also, Mr. James Devlin, who had 4 receptions for 22 yards. Devlin. The Devlin himself. The man's been around for a long time. He's been around for like 7 or 8 years, I think. He's a very underrated player. He just comes in, does his job. And he does it well. He does it very well. Now, let's look at the stars of the game as far as I'm concerned, the defense. Leading tacklers. Quarterback Stephon Gilmore had 8. Safety Devin McCourty and linebacker Jawan Bentley, rookie, had 7 each. With defensive tackle Lawrence Guy had 5. Jawan Bentley looks like he may be a staple in this defense for a long time to come. We actually have some depth at defense now. Good depth. We've had average depth before. But this kid can play, it looks like. He looks like he can play. He's a player. So our linebackers have been shored up. And how about our front 4? Let's look at our sacks. Trey Flowers back from the injury from the offseason. And Dietrich Wise Jr. each had 1.5 sacks. Yeah, they only had 3 sacks, but they got pressure. They got pressure, people. It's only the first game. It's too early to say, well, this is going to be the team for the rest of the year. Yeah, it's too early for that. But they got pressure. If you can get pressure on a quarterback, it changes a lot. It makes things so much easier for everybody else. Especially if you can get pressure with your front 4 and don't have to blitz. That changes everything. And a pass rush can actually hide and help fix a lot of things. You put pressure on the quarterback, it gets him thinking. That's how turnovers happen. Overall, this was a good game. It was kind of a messy game, but it was good. There were mistakes, obviously. I think the only real blemish was the Riley McCarron muff. Yeah, Brady threw an interception, but the muff was the big thing. The muff put him back in the game. So, will they sign him back? Will they just let him go? Either way, the Patriots did good. They look good going forward. The key, to build on the first game, the first win. Keep working hard. And keep pressuring the quarterback. But I'll tell you what, though. Gives Belichick a lot to work on for next week. And speaking of next week, it's the Patriots at the Jacksonville Jaguars. And it's going to be at 4:25 on CBS. Let's look at the Giants versus the Jaguars from Sunday. The Jaguars beat the Giants 20-15. Old friend Blake Bortles was 18 for 33 for 176 yards and one touchdown. Very pedestrian. And as far as team leaders in other categories, T.J. Yeldon, he had 14 rushes for 51 yards. And on a side note, Mr. Fournette, running back, he's day-to-day with a hamstring injury. So that slows him down just a little bit. And Keelan Cole, receiver, had 3 receptions for 54 yards. And let's go on to the defense now. Miles Jack, remember him from the championship game? He picked off Brady at least once. He had 10 tackles and he had an interception for a touchdown. Telvin Smith himself, linebacker, had 7 tackles. Calais Campbell and Laurenti McCray, they each had a sack. Now, don't get me wrong. I know this offense of Jacksonville is an NFL offense, and they can explode anytime, like any offense. But they just don't seem to be an opposing offense. I just don't know. Blake Bortles, there was talk of him turning a corner this year. He got that big contract. Yeah, it's only the first game, but man, you think you'd want to come out and show something. But I also know they can turn things around and play incredibly well against the Patriots, too. I get that. I don't know. They just don't look offensively very imposing. Now, defensively, that's where the stud power is. They can score on defense. And Telvin Smith, their linebacker, actually said it best. He said, and I quote, "We are almost an offense on defense." And it's almost like they have to be. And they better be most of the year because Bortles hasn't gotten it done, hasn't done much. Will he even do much? Either way, their defense is going to have to score this year, I think. They're going to have to score some points. It's going to be a tough physical game. If it was here, I'd say we probably blow them out of the water only because their offense can't move the ball. But down there in Florida, I predict a closer game. If the Patriots can avoid turning the ball over and keep pressuring the quarterback like they did this past Sunday, we'll win hands down. I think we only lose this game if we turn the ball over. Think about the Jaguars. You cannot turn the ball over to them. I think their offense works better if they get field position. You give them the ball at the 50-yard line or on your side of the field, or give them a short field, that makes life easier for them. You don't want to do that. You want to stay on top of them, just pound the crap out of them, but let them know you're going to smack them in the mouth every chance you get. I see it's going to be another ugly win. And I'm going to say Patriots 26-16. 26-16. I was right last week. Let's see if I can do it again. Now, before we go, I want to give out some extra news here. Josh McDaniels, our offensive coordinator, if you haven't heard, has signed a 5-year deal, reportedly the biggest deal ever for an OC. Head coach in waiting in New England? Could that be why? Or are they just rewarding his greatness? I don't know. Future Patriots head coach, possibly. It could happen. And then Gronk supposedly said he would retire rather than be traded in the offseason. Because there were some rumors that came out this past week that they were talking to a few teams that wanted him, and they were talking about a deal. And the deal was moving along, and I guess he got wind of it, and it's like, nope, I'll just retire. That's what was said anyway. I don't know how much truth there is to that. He was kind of like, whatever, no, maybe so, who knows, over the weekend, but he's here, going to have another good year, and win a bunch of games, hopefully. And lastly, don't expect to see Duke Dorsett anytime soon. Duke Dorsett has been placed on IR also, so he could be done for the year. Injuries suck, people. Injuries suck. All right, guys, that's the show today. If you're listening on Spreaker, like and subscribe. Apple Podcasts, please subscribe, rate, and review. And if you have any questions, comments, or want to give your perspective on what was discussed, you can reach me on Facebook, Roy Brady, email sportsperspective17@gmail.com, Twitter, Roy Brady Jr. Until next week, everybody, have a good week.